giant tropical centipedes.
Welcome back. Everybody knows about YouTube hitting a lot of content creators pretty hard recently through the demonetization of potential advertising revenue. Creators are having to reach out to their communities to fund their projects, and although it's uncomfortable to say the least, it will probably have the effect of getting YouTubers to be more serious about their content. Sites like the Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro, Gavin McInnes at Rebel and others are ahead of the curve. They are a bit more business savvy. They have a mix of free and paid content. The channels most affected are those sitting on the right of the political spectrum, the alt-right, and the alt-light. It was a targeted political maneuver, which came about from the perceived impact that the alternative media was having on the outcome of the US election. I had promised myself not to get involved with this last US election cycle, having next to zero faith in politicians for the most part. They say what they need to say in order to get elected, and then do what they are told once they get into office. Everybody knows this, but this one turned out to be a bit different, a potential game changer. When Donald Trump decided to run, he was essentially a self-financed, third-party candidate who took on both the left and right establishment. He ran with a nationalist ideologue, wanting tighter controls on immigration. He wanted to relocate jobs back to the USA, shifting away from the global mindset of TTIP. He wanted to, let's say it together, make America great again.
Try getting it out. Try getting it out. Try getting it out. Go ahead.
His nonchalant attitude towards political correctness combined with a lot of hard work helped propel him straight into the Oval Office. Meanwhile, over the pond, in the UK, they had just held a referendum and had voted for Brexit. The majority wanted to leave the EU. Britain was in free fall as far as the left were concerned. Remainer became Ramonas and called for a second referendum, claiming that the people didn't know what they'd voted for and that they'd been lied to. Businesses had millions of pounds wiped off their stock value as the pound fell against the dollar and the euro. Big business in general was against Brexit. The multinationals, the banks, they wanted to remain in the EU. It was the working classes who had had their wages undercut by the influx of cheap labor from Europe, and they'd finally had enough. The elderly too saw through the farce of the mission creep of a political union with Europe, which had morphed from an economic union in the 1970s. They'd fought 2 world wars to protect Britain from a European dictator, and they weren't about to vote for one now. The millennials were too busy jerking off to porn and gaming to get off the couch to vote. Yet they were the first to throw hissy fits, claiming that they'd been robbed by the old folk. The nationalist shift in the UK should have been a huge signal to the USA had they been paying attention. Usually trends go the other way across the Atlantic. However, although the US hadn't had the kind of exposure to multiculturalism as the UK has had, with the likes of Tony Blair and others opening the floodgates, allowing 10 times greater the number of migrants into the UK from the mid-90s, the US had not been without its troubles. They'd had been under the Obama hammer for a full 2 terms. All the big talk of closing Guantanamo, reducing taxes, restricting warrantless wiretaps, controlling lobbyists, cutting the cost of healthcare, and the proper labeling of food with regard to GMOs etc. had long since evaporated. It was business as usual with regard to a continued foreign policy of endless military intervention overseas, and the squeeze was back on the home front. The US did have a migration problem all of its own, though, with little or no enforcement of its immigration policy prohibiting illegals crossing the border from Mexico. Then, there was the unhinged SJW activists. There was the LGBT community with transgender bathroom legislation, which was really starting to take the piss. The college and university scene were similarly out of control, with safe spaces and hyperbole of a so-called rape culture. Identity politics was wearing your average Joe down, and Black Lives Matter were on a rampage. Trump said all the right things at the right time, and threw all the PC nonsense back into the face of the left. On the other side, the DNC had scuttled their own ship. The WikiLeaks dump of DNC emails revealed all sorts of hobgoblins. They managed to check DNC members' favorite Bernie Sanders from becoming the nominee through various shenanigans like voting registration mix-ups. The result was that Hillary would run against Trump. It was a move that would cost them dear. Many Bernie supporters withdrew their support for Hillary. The fake news networks still had Hillary leading in their skewed polls. If the current of what had been going on in Europe was anything to go by, if you'd had one eye on Brexit you'd have definitely have been looking into adjust accordingly. However, they just plowed straight ahead with their identity politics. Election night was a spectacle. The Huffington Post had Clinton on a 98.4% chance of winning. Yet, as the day progressed, Trump grew stronger and stronger. The leftist media went into full meltdown. They thought that this election was in the bag. It seemed that even Hillary was believing her own bullshit. Her side had her winning by a country mile. The news sources I was watching, however, saw it differently. Especially, there was talk of monster vote for Trump. A huge number of people who openly would not declare their intentions, but instead would voice themselves in the booth on election day. So Trump won, and the left were in complete shock. They were in complete denial with regards to their defeat.
You're awake, by the way. You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country. It's real.
He's taking the lead. Ohio, gone. Okay, Virginia, god damn it, it's 77% reporting, still a 5-point lead for Trump. It is fucking panic time. New Hampshire has flipped. He's now leading 48-47 on. Tick, 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 tick. You're running out of votes to count.
The New York Times forecasted who's likely to win. Donald Trump, now the favorite to win the presidency.
Huffington Post, what happened to your fucking 98.4%? Oh, wow. For the Trump presidency, brace for impact. But I'm at war with the Democratic Party. This corporatist, weak, spineless, pathetic party.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama.
What a great honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever anywhere the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald.
Historically, transition of a new administration into the White House has been reasonably smooth. However, in this cycle, as exposed by Project Veritas, who alleged that there was collusion between professional agitators and the DNC, CNN also exposed themselves as being biased towards Clinton. This prompted Trump to label them fake news as they misrepresented him and favored Hillary.
Not you. Your organization's terrible. Your organization's terrible. Let's go. Go ahead. Quiet, quiet. Go ahead. She's asking a question. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
Sit down.
Just because of the attack of fake news and attacking our network, I just want to ask you, sir.
I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine...
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you...
Yeah.
I can't remember a campaign ever being so hostile. It was apparent that the rise of a nationalist mindset in the UK and across Europe was the core element that manifested Brexit. That nationalism was, at the same time, alive and kicking in America. Trump's message, to make America great again, resonated with the people. Post-election, the cognitive dissonance and denial has been nothing short of astounding. Rather than accepting defeat gracefully, the Clinton machine with MSM in their pocket came out with a narrative claiming that Russia's government hackers had managed to affect the outcome of the election, and that some senior Republicans were compromised by Putin. They claimed that these hackers had helped disseminate fake news on social and alternative media. Consequently, we have seen attacks on YouTubers through the demonetization of videos in an effort to slow down the right. Should we really be so surprised though? The left are notorious for shutting down free speech. Trump is quintessentially everything the left despise. He is a manifestation of the desire of the free man to engage in the pursuit of happiness. He is an independent, hard-working, successful man He shuns political correctness, wears his heart on his sleeve, and isn't afraid to call things how he sees them. If you add straight white male to the list, the left start reeling. They despise the very drive and ambition that oozes out of every pore of his body. They also cannot tolerate that he has raised an incredible family with stable, balanced children. The left want to collectivize everything, and they can't bear to see independently successful people. They are merciless in their need to separate, isolate, dominate, and control. Trump is bringing wealth and a strong sense of national identity back to America. The left only feign compassion. They cannot tolerate that Trump has a heart, and with that heart he is fixing a broken nation, while they wallow in their narcissistic victimhood. For the left, Trump represents the ultimate tyrant and oppressor. American ideals cannot be downtrodden for long. The American eagle has a chance to soar. Now is the time to tighten your belt. The fight has only just begun. It was not part of their blood, it came to them very late, with long arrears to make good. When the Saxon began to hate, they were not easily moved. They were icy, willing to wait till every count should be proved. Ere the Saxon began to hate, their voices were even and low. Their eyes were level and straight. There was neither sign nor show when the Saxon began to hate. It was not preached to the crowd. It was not taught by the state. No man spoke it aloud. When the Saxon began to hate, it was not suddenly bred. It will not swiftly abate. Through the chill years ahead, when time shall count from the date that the Saxon began to hate, this destiny does not time, nor can it be broken, and its mantle of strength descends upon those in its service.